Yo guys, new video here. Doing another healer this time. We're talking about Holy Priests, my absolute favorite healer to play in all of Wrath, despite them being a bit off meta, maybe a bit slightly undesirable. They are still absolutely great healers for Wrath, and building out these BiS lists have been really fun for me because I love Holy Priests, and a lot of people don't know how to build them properly. So just without going into like a big Holy Priest guide, I'm going to try to give you just big bullet points in terms of what you need to pay attention to when building your Holy Priest. So let's start off with pre-raid, and of course, let's start off with talents. Now, these are the talents that we're going to be running with a Holy Priest to start the expansion off. Big points to notice is that we actually went into the discipline tree to get all the way down to mental agility. Mental agility is going to help us a ton with our mana. This is just super good talent. You take this early on because we struggle with mana, especially in like a buffed Nax environment. And you even consider going back into mental agility later on into the expansion on a super long fight like Lich King Heroic. So it's a phenomenal talent, and this build is a really good build to go with. Another point to point out is really like we're not going into body and soul. That is a talent that we do not spin, and these are the 3 glyphs that we run. We always run with these 3 glyphs. Now, jumping into the gear, another quick point, just like with this BiS, as with every other BiS list, these EP values are not true EP values. They are just placeholders for now, so please take it all with a grain of salt. But this BiS list will remain to be very strong for Priest, no matter what the EP values end up turning out to be. So when building your Holy Priest set, one thing you have to keep in mind is the haste cap. Now, a lot of healers will have haste cap. Rest of Druids do, Disc Priests do, rest of Shamans do, but you really don't hit it until like way later in the game. Holy Priest has one that is reachable early. Like, we can build for it now. It is just pretty difficult to reach. And you'll find once you hit Ulduar and TOGC, hitting that haste cap becomes infinitely easier for your Holy Priest. But for now, we kind of have to aim for it and gym for it in a little bit. So you'll see that we're aiming for a haste cap of 758. Okay, so that's why we made some of the gearing choices that we did. So first off, the headpiece. We're going with the Wintergrasp headpiece. This is a great headpiece for casters. And speaking of casters, you'll find that Holy Priest gearing oftentimes competes for a lot of really strong caster loot, which makes them by far the hardest healer to gear for. You are just last in line for a bunch of really contested items, and that's just the truth of it. This, however, comes from Wintergrasp. You'll need 40 marks of Wintergrasp to get this helm. If you are unable to get it, you'll have to get something else. Ideally with some haste on it, like this head from Sunwell would be a really solid choice. If you aren't able to get anything with haste on it, probably your best bet is going to be this head from Oculus or this one from Calling of Stratholme. But this one is by far our clear winner here. As for neck pieces, there's a bunch of neck pieces we can go with. I personally prefer just saving up some honor points and cashing them in to get this haste neck. I think this haste neck is phenomenal, a little underrated. However, it just isn't totally realistic for everyone, so a potential second option would be Lattice from Emblems of Heroism. Or even, what's funny is this ZA haste neck is pretty solid because it doesn't have any stamina on it. It actually remains to be pretty strong as you go into level 80, so one of these 3 necks would do you just fine, although there's many other options for neck, including multiple others that don't have any haste on them. As for shoulders, there's a lot of choices for shoulders. Typically, I would recommend something like Dark Runic Mantle. It's going to be a phenomenal choice, especially for Holy Priests. I mean, 50 haste is super good. I instead opted to go for the Shoulder Pads of Knowledge's Pursuit from Sunwell. The reason I chose these is because after you hit all of these BiS items in this list, you actually have an abundance of haste. And so this was my way of optimizing for more spell power. By getting an item that didn't have any haste on it, and this seemed to be the most logical, most optimal place to get it. Otherwise, I do love the other haste shoulders from Sunwell, of course. Those are phenomenal. This one from Halls of Stone is decent, but really, Dark Runic Mantle is a BOE that you can purchase off the auction house, and is typically your best in slot shoulder, so go with these. They're a great choice. But if you get this full BiS list here somehow, then I would recommend these shoulders if you can. Now, Death Chill Cloak, by far the best cloak that you can obtain. Not many other cloaks can even come close. there's just a sheer lack of haste cloaks at this point in the game, and this one is just insanely good, just very expensive. Now, Spellweave Cloak, Spellweave Robe is going to be your best in slot chest, and kind of by far because it has a whopping 90 haste on it. These are just really well itemized, and they're crafted from tailoring, so definitely save those from gold to purchase these. Your best wrists are going to be Cuffs of the Winged Leviathan. Levitation? From Oculus Heroic. Forgive me. Great wrists here. Got a good amount of haste on them and all the stats that we like. As for weapon, I prefer to just go with the staff from Oculus, although there's a couple other choices you could go for weapon if you wanted to go with a main hand and offhand. This is just going to get you the most amount of haste you can get pre-raid, so I really like this choice for weapon. And similar to the chest, we're going to go with the Spellweave gloves. Again, spirit haste and a lot of it. Super good gloves here. Now for belt, this was another area where we had an abundance of haste, so I decided to opt down into a non-haste item just to make sure that we're balancing out our kit well. So you'll need to adjust here accordingly in case you're missing some haste elsewhere. A couple other options you could get for haste would be, for example, this emblem belt that has hit on it. Yeah, I know, it has hit. It's still got a lot of haste on it. Another fantastic option is going to be the Knights of the Ebon Blade Exalted belt. It's got a lot of haste on it, 55 to be exact. This belt would typically be your BiS if you do not have another haste option alternative. Now these legs is really where I'm kind of like cheating here and getting by with a bunch of haste where I typically wouldn't in a pre-BiS setup. This amount of haste and these gem slots coming from the Sunwell pants are really, really good for Holy Priest. Very good. If you aren't able to get these, you could still get something like Black Duskweave leggings, which has even more haste, just no gems at all. So you would be getting, it would be a downgrade, but it would still be totally solid. You could even go with a couple other options like these pants from Utgard Keep, or even these pants from Old Kingdom. I just don't love them because they don't have any haste whatsoever on them, which is just really unfortunate for us. So these Sunwell pants are great if you can get them before Wrath comes out. Now these boots are pretty much a no-brainer. The haste boots from Wormrest Accord, these just slot in perfectly for our kit. Now, there are kind of a fair amount of ring options. Your best two are going to be the Kolinga Stratholm ring and the Utgard Keep ring. These two rings, of course, being your best in slot rings for basically every single caster DPS. These also are your BiS. You could potentially go Signet of the Guarantor if you wanted to spend 8.5k as soon as you hit level 80, just for a great solid choice and upgrade. And even another choice is the Exalted ring. Whoa, did I pass it? Here. From Argent Crusade. This ring is phenomenal, and you could use this in exchange with either one of these other two rings. Now, Spark of Life, one of the most important trinkets you could obtain. This trinket is not only your best in slot pre-raid, but best in slot for the phase, and you will use it for a very long time in Ulduar. So this is a very, very good trinket coming out of Halls of Stone Heroic, the last boss there. Your next best trinket, you could really go like a lot of routes with this. Typically, I want to recommend the Bell. I think the Bell is good. It's just unfortunately it's BOE, and truthfully, I don't think it's all that great. There are other options. I do think this is the best available option, but another option could potentially be the Egg of Mortal Essence, Emblem of Heroism. The only problem is that proc, all that haste kind of goes to waste. As long as you're haste capped, it's not really going to do anything for you. You could even consider going with this, the Shifting Naru Sliver from Sunwell. If you happen to manage to obtain this, that's a good amount of flat haste that would help you with building out the rest of your kit. And you could just stand in the circle, have an extra spell power bonus. This would be a decent choice for you as well. As you can see, there's some flexibility here with the second trinket option. And then for Wand, again, Wand of Ahn'kahet is one area where I opted down for less haste to gain just more overall spell power and stats here. This is a really, really good wand. Pretty much every caster is going to want this wand. However, the Sunwell wands still hold up pretty well. It's not a whole lot of haste, but it does have a socket on it, and so it does kind of give you a little bit of wiggle room to adjust your gear accordingly. And I would recommend any one of these three wands for you pre-raid. Now, going into Phase 1. Now, Phase 1, one thing we want to keep in mind is in Phase 1, what we do care about is getting our two-piece. We didn't care about it so much to go for it pre-raid because we cared more about hitting our haste cap. But once we get some more gear, we're able to actually go for the haste or the two-piece. So we get our 2-piece from Helm, which is from KT. If you are unable to get 2-piece this way from your Helm, another option for Helm could be your Cowl of Vanity. This comes from Grobulus. Not many people should want this Helm, so hopefully you'll be able to grab it after maybe a couple DPS get it as just stepping stone upgrades, but this should be one of these two would work out fairly well for you. As for neck, your true BiS is going to be the Wormwrist Necklace of Power, the EOE quest neck, but you're never going to get that. You will literally be behind so many people in your guild unless you can just purchase it. Your best next option is going to be something like Cosmic Lights coming off of Saffron. Your best shoulder is going to be Mantle the Locust coming off of a noob and 25-man next. These are just awesome. Awesome. Spell anything with Spirit, Haste spell power, you're making a good choice. Pennant Cloak is going to be your best cloak. This is a very good cloak, however, extremely contested, and you're going to see a lot of items are extremely contested here in this list. Your next best option is going to be this one from Emblem of Valor. Has a lot of haste on it, and Spirit, which is great. And you could use this going into Ulduar just fine. It's a wonderful cloak. Your best chest piece is going to be the OS 25-man chest piece. This is fairly contested, however, not as contested as other pieces. I do believe it's Demonology Warlock who gets priority on this, and then after that, hopefully you can swing it in competition with maybe a couple other classes. But this is going to be a phenomenal chest for you. Again, it has a ton of haste, ton of spell power, and 2 sockets for you. This chest just screams Holy Priest. And then Unsullied Cuffs. These are very contested wrists. Good luck obtaining them. Again, these are also coming from OS 25. The next best, I would probably recommend that you get these from Nax 25 off of Grand Widow Fairlina. As for weapon, we do want to prefer to go for Torch. I do think that Spire of Sunset is okay, but because no one wants it, you could use it temporarily. I just want to give it a shout out to it. But truthfully, I mean, Torch is by far your best in slot weapon. With, of course, the offhand being Matriarch Spawn. Now, Torch is going to be contested, but at least it does have some prio to healers. Although with the caveat that Shadow Priests, Elemental Shamans, and Boomies are also going to want Torch. Ugh. Matriarch Spawn is solid. It is BiS for a lot of casters. It just kind of depends what gear your casters have, because sometimes they're going to want to run with Surplus Limb if they need the hit. So it just depends. So good luck getting both of these, but this is your pure BiS. Now your best in slot gloves are actually Gloves of Token Respect. Again, they're very comparable to, let's say, like Spellweave gloves and even the Shadow Priest tier gloves. These 3 gloves are all like pretty neck and neck in terms of EP. Even though, again, these EP values aren't 100% accurate. We definitely go with Gloves of Token Respect here. And keep in mind, these are BOE, so if you don't end up seeing them, you could just purchase them off the auction house if you really wanted them. But no one needs them. They're not on anyone's BiS list. They are only used as stepping stone items, so you can comfortably take these in any guild run without upsetting anyone. Your best in slot belt is going to be Leash from EOE 25. This is another highly contested item. Highly contested. Best of luck to you obtaining it. It's just a phenomenal belt, and there are some, of course, alternatives, but really this one is head and shoulders above the rest. Now, I choose to go with tier legs to obtain the tier set bonus. I believe this is the most optimal route for us. We can get these, no problem. It shouldn't be too bad. And I gem them with spell power and haste. Another highly contested item are going to be our Arcanic Tramplers coming from EOE 25. Now, these are BOE, so you might be seeing a fair amount of these on the auction house, but be warned, they will sell for a fortune. I've seen them on some servers sell for the same amount as a Dark Moon card Greatness, and you know how much Dark Moon cards are selling for. I mean, they're going to be absolutely insanely expensive, but if you can manage to get them, they are your BiS. Now, your best rings are definitely Band of Channel Magic and Signet of Manifested Pain, but Band of Channel Magic is like the no-brainer, like obvious best in slot, and it's easy because it comes from Emblem of Valor. Signet of Manifested Pain is going to be another extremely contested ring, and thankfully, we actually have a lot of other ring options. If you wanted to go with something, say, like with the Ring of Decaying Beauty, you could. However, I don't really love getting MP5 on on Holy Priest. So even something like Band of Guile, just hanging on to this for longer, your pre-raid ring would be totally fine. And the reason being is because it has 50 haste on it, which helps you meet your haste cap. That's just a lot of haste on one single item, so if you want to sit on this for a little longer as you obtain your other haste pieces that are BiS, that would be a good choice too. Again, your Spark of Life maintains your BiS, and of course Illustration is going to be your best in slot. Now I actually failed to mention Illustration being your best in slot on my previous video on Resto Shamans. Pretty much every healer is going to want this except for Holy Paladins. But it's a DPS trinket, so getting this amazing trinket on your healers is going to be an absolute nightmare. It'll be really tough. Best of luck to you if you can't obtain it or purchase it in a GDKP or anything of the sort. Illustration is definitely your BiS, and Holy Priest would actually make good use out of Illustration. However, for alternatives, I do have a couple alternatives. One could be your Battle Master's Avidity. Again, I've talked about this in my Resto Shaman guide. You could go with Battle Masters if you want, although this kit doesn't really need it. We obtain our haste cap from a lot of other sources, so this trinket doesn't really work out to be all that great for a Holy Priest, but it is something that you could consider getting, at least temporarily. If you happen to be an Alchemist, the Mercurial Alchemist Stone is going to be your other best in slot for this phase. Mercurial Alchemist Stone is phenomenal for Holy Priest, although I just don't recommend Alchemy as a best in slot profession for Holy Priest. But if you are, great, use the Alchemist Stone, as it is really that good. Most of the time you're gonna end up with Forethought Talisman as your second trinket item in this slot, and that's totally fine. Forethought's okay. It does have a good flat amount of spell power, coming in at 111, but that proc or the extra equip attached to it just is a little lackluster for me, but it's enough to be totally fine. And then, of course, your best wand is going to be this wand coming off of KT and Nax 10. Now, of course, this is a little contested as it is on every other caster's BiS list. If they aren't going for the hit wand from Nax 25, which is even harder to obtain, this one should be easier because it is coming from 10-man. However, if you aren't able to obtain it, again, Fading Glow from Nax 25 should be a lot easier because it does have MP5 on it. None of the casters will argue if you take this, so that is totally fine for you to settle with Fading Glow for the phase, if that's the case. But Wand of the Archlich is definitely your BiS. Now, that is it. Let me just update this back to Illustration. And that's it. You're good to go. This is your BiS list. This is the perfect setup that I could recommend going into Old War. Oh, one last thing. Your talents. Now that we're full BiS and Nax and we're going into Old War, these are the talents that I would adjust to recommend for you. We're taking 3 points out of Mental Agility and that 1 point that we had in Silent Resolve, and we're throwing them back into the Holy Tree for a little more effective healing in certain areas. I opt to go for Desperate Prayer to make sure I have a point in there. I throw in a couple more points into Blessed Resilience, and then I throw a couple points into Empowered Healing. This is kind of optional, totally up to you. These points are pretty flexible. If you wanted, you could throw them into Test of Faith. If you were memeing around, you could even throw them into Body and Soul. There's a lot of flexibility here with the Holy Priest talent tree to mix and match how you prefer to play the class. This is my recommendation for now. All right. That's it. Thanks for the Holy Priest guide. Thanks for listening. This isn't a guide. Seriously, thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate all the support. I know it was a little surprising that I did Holy first, but I will be having a Disc Priest list coming out soon. I just had to get out the Holy Priest guide, as it is probably the healer that I have the most amount of experience with, next to Resto Shaman, of course. And it's just, again, my all-time favorite healer. I absolutely adore this class, and so if you are planning on playing Holy Priest, feel free to come to me with any questions that you might have, as there genuinely is not enough knowledge out there on Holy Priest. There's a lack of theory crafting put into it, and just a lack of sheer man hours played in the private server scene and on like a 335 client. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how Holy Priest shapes up in the meta in Classic Wrath, and looking forward to it. I don't think I'll have an alt Holy Priest, so I want to live vicariously through you guys out there. Thanks so much for watching. Again, please subscribe, like this video, and share with any Holy Priest friends that you have. Thanks, guys. Peace.